Hello, my name is Greta Harrison. Welcome to Born Fabulous Podcast Season 3, Episode 28. The theme of this season is young adults with intellectual disabilities living full lives of independence and interdependence. Work is an integral part of a full life and independence. The next 3 episodes will feature Jamie Minotti and Mark McLary, who are co-founders and managing partners of My Yard Live Beer Company in San Marcos, California, which is a suburb of San Diego. My Yard Live has a unique mission. They seek to create a sustainable, family-friendly refuge with activities for all ages, live entertainment, quality food and libations, as well as unique leisure games with a focus on building a stronger community. Their mission further states they will create a paradigm shift in the way that communities interact, play, and bond by inventing an inclusive family and adult-friendly gathering space that has the ability to be replicated in the Western United States and beyond. This mission organically led to the hire of James Zoll when My Yard Live opened in 2019, months before the COVID pandemic hit. James has Down syndrome. James's job grew over his years with My Yard Live, eventually leading to the unique addition of the 4 dudes and their mission. The 4 dudes are James and 3 of his close friends who have disabilities. The following 3 episodes will expand this wonderful story from here. Now, please enjoy this clip of The Ring. The lyrics are by Melissa Riggio, who was the focus of episodes 1 through 4 in Season 1. She had Down syndrome. The music and voice are by Rachel Fuller. Hello, and we are so excited to welcome 2 fabulous entrepreneurs today. We are going to be speaking to co-founders and managing partners of My Yard Live, which is a brewery in San Diego. We are going to be speaking to Jamie Minotti and Mark McLary. I welcome you both to Born Fabulous Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. We appreciate it. We're excited.
Thank you. I'm hoping that you guys can start out this interview by telling us a little bit about your duties, your business, how you met each other, anything about yourselves, a little backstory.
Got it. So, Jamie, you want me to start, or?
Yeah.
So Jamie and I actually started working together in 2005, right, Jamie? 2005 or 4? 5. We at the time were producing a music festival, but it was unique as we were producing it on a music cruise, one of these big Carnival cruise lines. So we basically came in, kicked off all their entertainment, brought in our own entertainment, all these high profile bands from all over the world. So that's kind of initially how we started working together. At the time, we actually also had founded a company called Alternative Power Productions, and we were a solar-powered soundstage and lighting company. So what was unique about that, obviously, is that we were doing these huge concerts, 15,000 people, completely solar-powered. So we integrated the solar technology into the stages themselves, and then we're running our sound system, lighting, everything completely solar-powered. So, for example, we were doing a tour called the Vans Warp Tour, and it was 42 shows in 50 days. And for the entire 42 shows, we never went to a generator. We're completely running off alternative energy. So, and with that too, because of being in that world, we found ourselves very much involved in a lot of different types of events and festivals, and a lot of them were community based. A lot of them were, your mainstream large festivals. And the more we kept working through these events, for example, these beer festivals and these wine festivals and these, macaroni festival, bacon festival, we were starting to see this niche in the market that families were looking to integrate more with these festivals. But quite often there was always some kind of divide between the parents. If a parent wanted to go grab a beer, they could, but they'd have to go in the beer garden, and they were separated by a fence, and the mom was on the other side, or the dad was on the other side with their kids, and they were trading. And we were starting to see how there was a niche there that the families wanted to be more involved in these kind of deals. And that's kind of when the light bulb went off. That was one, when the light bulb went off for My Yard Live. The other piece of it too is that Jamie and I are both parents. Combined between us, we have 6 kids. And there's always that Friday night where you ask your kids, hey, where do you want to go to dinner? And of course you get 4 different answers, and it turns into an argument. And that, so again, it was like, well, what about, designing something, a brick and mortar of that festival that we're talking about, as well as something where the parents can be happy, the kids can be happy, where, like you mentioned that we're a brewery. We're actually a brew pub. So we have a restaurant, a brewery, we do live music, we have a playground for the kids, we have an arcade. So it's kind of an all-encompassing deal where everyone is happy, and the bigger point of all of that, and something that Jamie and I have always focused on, is community. So when we set out to build My Yard Live Beer Co., this is kind of our underlying tagline, was that we're opening a community center that just happens to have a brewery and a restaurant. Did I miss anything there, Jamie?
No, I think you nailed it. I mean, to that point, really the hospitality industry as a whole, Mark and I weren't really interested in going into hospitality or having a brewery or having a restaurant. We were interested in putting, a venue together to create a space where community could gather and create memories, and multi-generational, families can come together, and friends, and really, create that opportunity for that to take place. And that we found in all different ways. And fast forward to, speaking with you, creating that community and developing those relationships really happened early on. And I know we'll get to it later in the conversation, but speaking in hearing from June and receiving that email about James and employment and involving him, that was one of the first things that hit Mark and I to say, well, I think we're doing this thing. Like I think the vision board and the idea behind it is starting to work, and kind of fast forward, and we've had the opportunity to do a lot of things with the community, and I'm really excited about it.
I love that. So basically you built a family-friendly, intergenerational family-friendly environment for people to go relax, have fun, make memories. And you're changing, well, as your tagline says, the paradigm, but you're also changing stereotypes of pubs or breweries too.
Absolutely. Well, and you kind of you kind of hit a point about changing paradigms. Like Jamie had mentioned it too, is that when we went through the due diligence of opening the space, one of the things that really came to light was that people, when they go out, they're more now looking for an experience beyond just getting a meal or a drink. What they're really looking for is experiences. And so for us, that was 100% our focus, was taking all these different elements that we've created and creating like a memorable experience. Yeah, they're going to get a great burger and they're going to get a really good beer, but they're going to walk away and be like, wow, that was just a lot of fun, and creating those experiences.
And
And like you said, the parents and the kids aren't going to have to be separated as much. They're all in the same place having different kinds of fun. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jamie.
No, and we always felt like the hospitality industry as a whole could had the ability to make a greater impact in the communities of which they operated. And that's kind of our sense of creating those memories, creating that space, that safe space, that welcome space, creating a diverse space, but then also having the ability to, have that machine in that company that can really reinvest back into the community. And we opened July of 2019. So Mark and I sat down in 2017 with a vision board and a 6-pack of beer on his sunroom and visioned out where we wanted to be and what we wanted this thing to look like. There was no Maillard Live, there was no title, there was no building, there was no anything. And through the course of 2 years, we developed a business plan, raised funds, found real estate, brought on some really great partners and investors, and opened our doors in 2019. And 9 months later, short 9 months later, we shut down for the first time, and became amidst of challenges over the course of 2.5, 3 years. And one of the things that we can really sit back and say is, the reason we got through those times with having only been open 9 months was because of this community concept. And that's not why we created it, but the reason why we are here today is because that community concept was developed and was integrated into Maillard Live and what Maillard Live is. And the community as a whole has helped us really get through it, and in some ways been stronger for it. And here we are. We've been open since 2019, but really here we are going into 2014, and we've only been fully operational for about 2 years, which is crazy to say. But we have people come out and say, "Hey, we didn't even know you existed," and all these things. And it's because, we've only been open for a short period of time. And those are the things that we kind of remind ourselves of and remind our staff of, and kind of build to strengthen for the future. So
2024 will be like your second or third year, even though technically it's been longer. But the community missed you, didn't they? It sounds like the community missed you. Nobody liked being penned up for as long as we had to be penned up. I mean, it was necessary. I'm not complaining. It was needed. We did what we needed to do, but it makes people appreciate community more. Did you see that?
Yeah, well, I think probably one of the best examples of that I can think of is literally when we were mandated to shut down. In the middle of it, we weren't generating income. We were in the middle of a pandemic, in one of the toughest industries to be in the middle of a pandemic. We actually brought on a family as investors, and they're like, "We're so passionate about what you guys have built there and done there that we want to invest in you right now to make sure that you guys are moving forward." So for us, that was just the icing, so like this is unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah, that was like sent from above, sounds like.
Yeah.
That's just wonderful. Well, if we talk about before we move on, you said you have 6 kids between you. So let's just talk about you personally a little bit. If you don't mind telling me your ages, and there's a reason I'm asking that.
I'm 52.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Jamie?
I'm pretty sure I'm 48.
You're pretty sure you're 48. Okay. And how many kids you said you had 6 kids total, but how many kids do each of you have?
I have 4.
Okay. And so then Jamie, you have 2.
I have 2. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. My 4-year-old was 5 months old when we opened our doors in 2019. And amidst the pandemic, as if it wasn't stressful enough, we decided to have a baby and reopen when the baby was basically being born. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's quite some timing there. Quite some timing. Okay. And part of that, the reason I wanted to ask that was when you grew up, what was your exposure to people with disabilities?
Well, I don't know if it's I don't know if growing up, I think the best way for me to answer it, the most exposure I had to it was my sister-in-law actually has Down syndrome. So that would be for me, that would be the most exposure I've had to it.
Okay. And you might tell me how old your sister-in-law is?
She's 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And Jamie, what about you?
So yeah, I grew up in a family of educators. My dad was a special education teacher, and he ran a camp for folks with special needs, mainly elementary, middle school, and high schoolers, called Ranger Day Camp. And when I was 4 years old, I started going to Ranger Day Camp every day, thinking I was a counselor. And fast forward to the realization that my dad was getting really great childcare over the course of the summers while I was attending camp. So my sister and I attended camp. When I was 5, I went to my first Special Olympics state games and stayed in the dormitories and stayed overnight for the state games in Connecticut. And my dad was pretty instrumental in doing that. So my exposure's been, really my whole life, and done some volunteering, and actually, hopefully this Sunday, if everything works out, I'm going to bring my daughter. My daughter's 4, and I'm going to bring her to the LA County Special Olympics and kind of do a similar introduction to her as when I was 4 years old. So
That's great. That's great. Now, did either of you have anybody with disabilities in your schools, in your classes, or that you saw in school, or did you not really see the people with disabilities in school?
No, I for sure did. I grew up through the public school system. I grew up in Palo Alto, and the schools there definitely had special need programs. But again, it seemed, I'm going back to a very young age, like elementary school. It seemed like it was very much a separation. Like I always, in my mind, I kind of remember seeing kids with disabilities, but they're always almost segregated to a degree. And I'm talking the 70s, if that makes sense.
Well, it still happens 50 years later, so I'll tell you that. I mean,
Okay.
it's still the majority of the cases. I don't know the percentages, but I would say 80-90% are still segregated. It's a
But
very small percent who get a traditional education included. Very small. And what about you, Jamie?
So, I would say similarly. I think there was like kind of a mixed integration in our school. Connecticut as a whole, historically, kind of with the Kennedys and their involvement in Special Olympics and that kind of thing. I think Connecticut was pretty progressive, or at least my upbringing with kind of my integration and having folks with special needs over to dinner, and my sister being friends with the girls with Down syndrome, Susie Pyle. I still remember her name. I think I felt maybe it was more integrated than it actually was. My nephew has autism, and here in San Diego, and he's fully integrated in general ed. So, I think, as far as growing up was concerned, it was probably for me a kind of a mixed integration, or what I observed of it.
I love that you guys are going to raise your children to carry on the more inclusive philosophy, and you're already starting when she's 4, and she'll probably go to school with people who have disabilities in her classes. So that'll be the progress.
I was going to mention with my kids going through the public school system here, and I live in Point Loma area, that they're very much, it's an integration for sure. And each class actually will have an aide dedicated maybe to 1 or 2 kids in the class that are also there to help during the class time.
That's great. That's wonderful. So how big is My Yard Live? I know you have several investors. I know we have 2 managing partners. Can you tell me a little bit about your location size, how many employees you have, that type of thing?
Well, including the indoor and outdoor, the entire space is 17,000 square feet.
Okay.
And then we have 29 employees. There's actually 4 main partners. JB, myself, a guy by the name of George McCarrow, and another guy named Freddie Bench. And then there's a bunch of smaller investors that are kind of silent investors.
Okay.
So the indoor space is 10,600 square feet, and then the remainder is all the outside. So we have 2 separate patios. One patio we call the adult patio because it's got a stage and it's kind of set up like a Oktoberfest style beer garden with lots of picnic tables. And then we have a completely separate outdoor patio that's got a playground. We have a play structure out there designed by the same people who did Tom Sawyer's Island in Disneyland. And then inside, we have an arcade inside, and of course the brewery itself, and then a massive kitchen.
Okay, so I'm sorry, go ahead, Jamie.
Oh, I was just going to continue on. We have, 30 employees, and a variety of kind of subcontractors and vendors that go along with the business. So prior to the pandemic, we were about 50 strong, and then we kind of circled back and we're a little bit more leaner and meaner at 30 folks.
Okay, but everything's chugging along and going well. You feel like things have sprung back, like business has sprung back?
Slowly springing back, I would say.
Yeah,
slowly springing back.
Baby steps.
There's new kind of post challenges with expenses and economy and costs of living and all of those things that have kind of sprung up. But that being said, again, the reason we're still chugging along is because of the community support and the business that's been there from the community. So,
okay. Well, the reason we are talking today is because of your wonderful employee, James Zoll. And his employment journey started with a letter. I've already spoken to his parents and his wife's parents. We've heard the story from their side. I'd like to hear what it was like from you all's side when you got this special letter.
So I remember reading the email, and I was just been coming home from the venue, sitting in my driveway, checking blast emails, and I saw the email come through from June. We were so as we were developing My Art Live, we were doing a capital improvement project on the building, and we actually had a trailer in the back of the building that at that time we were working out of while the construction was going on, and we were hiring folks and establishing menu and recipes and you name it, still dealing with the capital improvement project. So everything community driven that we wanted to do with the business, I wouldn't say it was on hold. It was just there was priorities of opening the doors of the business, and we were hyper focused on that. So when that email came through, I remember sharing it with Mark, and Mark seen it. I think Mark saw it come through as well. And we kind of talked about it. And like I mentioned earlier on, that was like the first of, wow, this is exactly what we're trying to do. We haven't had the time to do it yet because we're worrying about opening the doors and keeping the doors open, but this is what we want to do. And I shared kind of my past with my involvement in just my experience with folks with special needs. And so for that to be kind of the first email to come through from June was very serendipitous, as they say. So
For the audience's information, I want them to know that this was all precipitated by an article that was announcing your business opening, correct? That was in the paper, and talking about how you were going to be a different kind of pub/brewery, more community minded, and that's kind of what caught June's eye. And then she wrote a letter. And what about her letter stood out to you? Because there were a few things that I think stood out to me. I'm curious what stood out to you.
Well, I think that, and I think June and Jim really like beer.
And James.
and
James.
James. Yeah, absolutely.
And James. That's a great answer. Well, what I was thinking on a literal basis was, if I'm not mistaken, she sent a picture of James and his wife, correct? Of their wedding, or a picture of them together.
Mm-hmm.
And so wasn't that a little bit out of the box for you to see that?
I wouldn't say it was out of the box, right? Because like as Jamie mentioned, and I'm gonna give Jamie a lot of credit, because he grew up very much involved, involved working with people with special needs. And so when this came through, yeah, we both acknowledged it, and we both said, yeah, this is exactly what we're looking to do. But it was Jamie that really took the ball and ran with it, and of course I was 110% on board. And so yeah, all of that stood out to us. I mean, it definitely, like, cheesy expression, but it did, when we saw that email, it definitely pulls at your heartstrings for sure. And we knew that we were going to move forward regardless. So
it's, from a parent standpoint, for me, it shows independence. There aren't a lot. I would love to see more people with significant disabilities being able to get married, and there aren't enough yet. There's still too many hurdles in their way. So I personally applaud every single couple out there who's been able to do that. And I think it's wonderful. And like I said, we need more of it. But hopefully by seeing a married couple, it makes you think, okay, he's a little more independent too. I mean, we all know marriage isn't easy. There's ups and downs, right? It's a journey right there. I mean, I've been married as long as you guys are old, but it's a journey. There's those ups and downs, and the fact that he and his wife, had already been married some number of years, I think that shows some maturity there too, as well. But
yeah,
so,
I mean, the greatest thing of this all is that James was probably one of our first hires, and guess what? There's a lot of turnover in this business, and guess who's still here? James. He's stuck with it, and all through this entire time, through a pandemic. Like, we always say that, I mean, how strong can relationships be when you've all banded together and worked through one of the probably craziest times in the history of the world, in my opinion, a pandemic. They happen every 100 years, I think they say. So
you brought up a great point. Go ahead, Jamie.
Oh, sorry. I as far as the independence, I think, and I'll speak for myself, we still learn, and we are learning a lot. And, as much as, I've been around and with folks with special needs my entire life, at the same time, with the movement and the progression of independent living versus, and I don't know if this is the terminology, but group home living, and the differences in the theories and in all of those things that go along with it. Those are things that, honestly, to that point, and independent living and marriage and all that stuff was new to me and new to us, and things that we have continued to learn, and still learn with the folks that help support James and Kristen and their involvement with us, and job coaches and all of those things. So a lot of that stuff was new to us at the time. I think the thing for us was, it didn't matter. Like it didn't matter, right? It was like married, not married, independent, not independent, or whatever. It was, there's a person who's interested in our company, and they've reached out, and we want to sit down, we want to get to know them, and we want to learn about them, and that's kind of what we did.
And he's loyal to this day. And one of the points that I like that Mark brought up was the lack of turnover, because so many employers have an issue with that, and they don't realize that people with disabilities are not every single person. You can't make that kind of statement, but majority are very, very loyal, and there's much less turnover. So that's a huge advantage. Are there any other advantages you'd like to talk about having James there?
I mean, just to kind of stick on that turnover. So, and Mark referenced it a little earlier, but I mean, I can name a bunch of advantages of having James here, but one particularly that kind of maybe something that's a little different is actually the turnover and retention of the staff as a whole and the team as a whole. I mean, we have a lot of long-time hospitality, server, bartender, brewer, et cetera, you name it. And having James, and not only James here, and we'll kind of get in, a little bit more about our other partnerships, because I'm actually looking out my office window at 6 folks with special needs we have right now in the venue that are working with us. But the ability for our staff who have been long-term hospitality folks who focused on serving to now have the ability to work with folks with special needs and help train them and help support them and be their job coach and, be their mentor and be their sounding board and being those things that I think for our team, not only with retention and longevity, but also morale and having something that's deeper than just serving a beer and deeper than just flipping a burger. And we have guys, back in the kitchen that have worked in hospitality and worked in kitchens for over 30 years. And James is back on our expo window, which is the window where you get the food, grabbing the food and kind of delivering it back out to the customers. And James is out there, and these guys are joking and laughing and asking questions and the whole thing. And again, I think all of it kind of ties into that bigger purpose, which is what Mark and I are all about. It's what's that bigger purpose? I don't care if you're making widgets or wadgets or whatever. What is that? What is your purpose, and what is that bigger purpose? And I think, having James here and the other, I'm calling kids, but the other kids and adults, some are high school students and some are adults here working with us, has kind of created that bigger purpose, which I think is not only for the team, but for Mark and I is what we've been trying to do.
You just very eloquently stated something that my daughter's boss has told me personally. My daughter works for a local realtor. He's a very large realtor. He has several hundred employees. And she works in his office, and she assists the marketing director. And she explained to me part of the reason that the realtor is so successful is because it's about more than selling houses. It's about what you do with your life and that greater purpose. And that she herself, even though she's a mother of many children and she's a very busy person, she loves her job. She was searching for that deeper purpose. And she said, having my daughter there has helped her see, because it's more than having my daughter there. There's involvement in the community she has now and so forth. It's shown her a deeper purpose. And you just eloquently stated that. I wish so many more employers could see that. I love that. Thank you for listening to episode 28 of Born Fabulous Podcast 3rd season. This was the first of 3 episodes with Jamie Minotti and Mark McLary. When hearing any dates or promotions mentioned, please keep in mind that this interview was recorded in the fall of 2023. Short video clips from most episodes are available on our YouTube channel and on bornfabulouspodcast.com. You can also hear all released episodes of Born Fabulous Podcast on YouTube now. In episode 29, you will hear Jamie and Mark further discuss James's specific job, the story of the 4 dudes, meaningful employment, and more. It was such an honor to have this in-depth 3-part conversation with Jamie and Mark. They are exceptional, evolved, committed, and caring business leaders. Our world certainly needs more entrepreneurs like them. Please follow and like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Threads. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review wherever you heard this podcast. Now please enjoy this clip of The Ring. The lyrics are by Melissa Riggio, who is the focus of Season 1, Episodes 1 through 4. She had Down syndrome. The music and voice are by Rachel Fuller.